Welcome back to Ozarks News Journal. Today we're taking an in-depth look at the state of the news industry in America. In this segment, we're looking at the converging nature of news and the role of the internet in the future of news.
Jack, we're going to start with you this time. We'll get right to the point. Will the internet spell the death of news as we know it?
Well, I guess depends on what you mean by news as we know it. There will always be news. It won't be the end of the news business, certainly. I do think you are seeing a major shift in the way that news is gathered and disseminated, and like with all technological changes in the past, it is changing not just the delivery system, but also the content of the news. As I mentioned, during the last segment, the emphasis is now on speed of communication, and there's something that you lose with that, and it's thoroughness generally, and not just thoroughness with reporting, but also the quality of the writing and the copy editing, and combined with the budget pressures that we're seeing in the newspaper industry, that's usually one of, sadly, the easiest things to cut is fewer eyeballs examining the stories before they go out, and you see it in the daily press at almost every level.
The internet has been a great thing for news. There are more news sources now than there ever have been before.
Mm-hmm.
There are more people digging into stuff, looking at stuff, and I think if you want information, if you want the truth, and I think that now it's little t and it's become all relative, this is a great time to be in news because it's everywhere all the time and people want it and people need it.
I like that attitude.
Well, is the internet changing the fundamental values of journalism? Do you guys think that it is?
Fundamental, not necessarily, but what the internet has done, it's reminded us of something that we've forgotten, that all Americans have First Amendment rights to freedom of the press. That word press does not refer to a profession. It refers to a machine and metaphorically the product of that machine. And every American has exactly the same First Amendment rights to freedom of the press. Professional journalists do not have more rights than other Americans. The marvelous thing is now we have a machine that for very little money turns all of us into publishers. Okay, now, does that mean we're in a brave new world of great new news? I don't know. I mean, I do know that we've seen tremendously great things happen because of it and really weird stuff happen because of it, and I think that's going to continue to be the case. And it's going to put the onus on citizens to kind of pay attention. And I'm thinking that's a good thing.
People are going to have to work a lot harder to navigate through the static. I mean, there are just so many, it's like you said, there's so many voices out there, and it is good in theory in that there's more people who are asking more questions, who are doing the reporting, and it's coming not just from media professionals, but from ordinary citizens. The problem is that there's just so much garbage out there, and it's sometimes very hard to tell the difference, and you often find, too, that the audience has an appetite for what I guess I would consider the garbage. And they seek it out, and a lot of them feel that they're still getting news when they consume this stuff.
And if you are a news company, you have to ask yourself, am I positioning myself to be the one that people trust? With so much noise and so many options, people will navigate to what they trust, and are you that particular product?
Now we're seeing a lot of people digging for it through the internet for news, trying to find it wherever they can get it, like you said, but a lot of people are finding internet-based news to be boring or annoying. With all the advertising, we've talked a lot about the economy today, you're seeing almost a 30-second ad for every news package that you look at online. Do you think that people will begin to revert back to broadcast and print simply out of frustration?
Too many technologies out there that allow you to control the news. I mean, I can consume news leader stories and not even visit the news leader's website. That's what technology allows me to do, to control it and watch and consume news on my terms.
How has your newsroom implemented the internet with your newscasts? What kind of things are you all doing now?
I spread the internet responsibilities over everybody. Everybody is responsible for publishing what they do to the internet. The deadline is always now. Sometimes we hit it, sometimes we don't. I have to push them a little bit. Where we're stuck is in the next level of storytelling, layering content, creating specific, instead of repurposing what we do on television to look like it goes on the internet, but developing content that is designed for the internet. And that's something that is challenging television newsrooms across the country, and certainly that's where newspapers have took the ball and ran with it many years before television did, is developing that depth that is there that you can get in the internet that you can't get on television news, and that we're not used to doing as television news reporters.
Well, let's be clear. They picked up the ball but they picked it up late. And they probably would be in a better position right now financially had they picked it up when it was initially dropped. And continuing with this football metaphor.
What's going to make it better? Because obviously we're going into the internet technology, and we're going to be utilizing that more and more. How can we make it better?
I'll tell you what, if I had to answer that question, I would write a book and make $1 million.
I think defining the measure of success. You know, newspapers and television stations have been able to define a certain measure of success for many years, and that was always the measure. But things are so diversified now, and the economic downturn has led to a resetting of some sort, that what we used to call success before, we may never get back to. So where do we set the bar now that we are comfortable with and that we continue to be and reflect the values that the company reflects?
That's a good attitude.
Yeah. Well, at one point, just to kind of expand on that a little bit, you talked about the state of the economy right now. As we're sitting here talking about the demise of newspapers and the shifts and everything that we're looking at, bear in mind that the economy is not going to be this terrible forever. And the picture is going to look much different once we come out of this recession, as we have always come out of recessions in the past. So as you look at the balance sheets of these newspaper corporations and other media entities, just take that with a grain of salt and realize that things will look different when the recession is over. Is it going to be drastically different? I don't know, but let's just calm down a little bit on the all newspapers are dying front and take the long view.
Finally, our last yes or no question of the day. 10 years from now, will all major news organizations be internet-based with other formats like TV stations, printed papers, radio, as smaller additions to the regular internet news? Jack?
I don't think so, and that is partly my 20th century attitude that I still can't figure out how anybody's going to find a way to make serious money on the internet the way that we used to. But that's just maybe me being sort of old-fashioned and cranky.
Brad?
I would agree that we still have to reflect on the reality of the way our consumers behave, and people still want to take something into the bathroom with them, and there's a lot you can't do with that. And I think people will still have the same habits that they do. They'll be changed, but
that TV is the centerpiece of the living room, and I don't see a lot of people taking their computer and plugging it in the middle of the room. I mean, that's a powerful thing to overcome.
And Dr. Cline?
I don't know, because we are in the middle, and maybe early middle of a revolutionary period, and what it's going to look like on the other end, I don't think anybody really knows. We have our hopes and dreams, we have our fears, we have our whatever. Wait and see.
Okay, well, this has been interesting and informative, to say the least. Dr. Andrew Cline, Jack Diamond, Brad Belote, thank you for being here so much. We appreciate you coming to join us.
Thank you.
Join us again next week as we get back to our regular format with more in-depth news about Southwest Missouri. Have a great day, Missouri.